programs were given caveats. We just needed some type of revision, or we just needed extra materials. I know some of you are still waiting to hear back from me. I promise I will get to you within the next couple of days, so forgive me. And also, if you are still have not sent those materials, if you could send those by May 1st, that would be wonderful, okay? So I wanted to go over the next thing that we're going to need from all of you. In here, you will see this form about fingerprinting. It looks like this. So for all of the independent artists, the freelance people, we do need to have you go through background checks and fingerprinting, and they have to be done in Hartford at CREC. I know this may seem tedious and annoying and frustrating, but we have to adhere to all of Hartford Public Schools, and since those are the people that they use, we have to use them as well. It's a one-time thing that we ask you to go through. You just go to CREC, make sure to bring 2 forms of identification with you. It's a $60 flat fee, and then make sure to have the results sent to Jacqueline Hart, to my email. Do not have it sent to Hartford Public Schools or individual school, anything like that, or it will be lost. With the organizations, if you are affiliated with an organization, you do not have to do a background check, because we already assume that you are doing a background check on the artists that you're bringing into the schools. So if for some reason, if something were to happen, which nothing will, but if something were, you would be liable. But with the independent folks, we would be the ones that are liable, so we need to have that background check. And all of the information about the person that you need to email is right on that form. And you can also find it right on our website at www.hartfordperforms.org, and it's under resources for arts providers. So that brings us on to the next form in your folder, which is this, the data collection form. So, the way that we market your programs to the schools and the grade level teachers is through the database that Robert was just talking about. In order for us to upload that information, we have to have you fill out this form and then submit it back to us so then we can upload it to the database for teachers to see. We are going to go over it. Some of it is going to be very easy, a copy and paste from your original application. Some of it might be a little different. So this is one of the forms I will be sending you electronically, and I will need it back electronically as well in order to just copy and paste what you wrote and put it up. This is the best way that we have at this point to make sure that you're being represented in the exact way that you want to be on our website. As Robert was saying, next year we're hoping to have a database where you can just go on and update as you wish. But at this point, what we have to do is have the form sent to us and then we do it. Okay? So I do want to talk through this database, data collection form. Please feel free to send pictures along. It's easier if you put it in the same email as JPEGs instead of embedding it into the document, because what we're doing is we're uploading it and creating it into a PDF form right onto our database. So, and you guys are more than welcome, once again, if you wanted to go on the website and see what that looks like, by all means. You would just go under school resources, and then it will say database link, and then you just click there and you'll actually be able to see all the prompts it talks you through. It asks for grade level, price of program, art form, curriculum subject, and through that it vets out all the programs that would best fit the needs of the classroom teacher. Okay? So first page is a lot of the very easy stuff, just talking about the grade levels your program aligns to or serves. Program type, what we're hoping to do is have the same form for your programs that are an arts integration program and an arts focused program. We're hoping to have just one page instead of having it as 2 separate things, making it confusing. So just check off both if your program is both an arts integration and arts focused program. Okay? Then the cost per student. Also, arts focused programs are different. We pay per class for that one. We'll go over in more detail about that afterwards. But also make sure to check off that price point. The capacity, this is the part that seems to always be a little fishy for people. So the way we schedule is we sit down with the grade level team, but the only way that we really can keep track of how many programs of yours that we are booking is if we do it per classroom. So when we ask for your capacity for the entire school year, we actually need to know how many classrooms you're willing to serve. Okay, so on average, there's 3 classrooms per grade level, which means you'd be running your program 3 times. So essentially, how many times would you like to be running your program with Hartford Performs for the school year? That's what we mean by capacity. We are in 19 schools currently. Next year we'll be in 25 schools. This is our way to make sure that we're not overbooking you, because we don't want to get to a point where we say, hey, your program was booked by 20 different grade levels, and then you say, well, I have gigs that are in other states, I can't accommodate that. So this is our way of making sure that we're not overcompensating, especially for people who are traveling a long distance. I'm sure your capacities would be different than somebody who is local in Hartford. And just so you know, we will always call. So for instance, let's say your program is really hot next year and everybody just wants it and you get booked up, we will call you and ask if you want. We'll tell you that, you know, you're over your capacity, do you want to add more, or is that an absolute cutoff? Okay. This is what they're going to be looking at when they go to book your program. So the application was really giving us just a sense of what your program's about, what it looks like in the classroom, what are the connections it's making to the arts and also the curriculum. Now it's about selling your program. Okay? Do we have any people with off-site performances in here? Yes. So, for this, when we ask for how many tickets your program serves, we need to know for Hartford Performs specifically, not the overall that you're putting out for the entire community. So, now, is there a minimum number of students? So, most of you, or most of the artists in our database at this point, charge $10 per student for arts integration programming. On average, like we've said, there's about 25 students in a classroom. There's about 3 classrooms on average at a grade level. So 75 students, so you'd be paid $750 for your program. Okay? Now, if that rate does not meet what you usually are paid for this program, what you can do is say that you have a minimum number of students. So you can say, I need at least 100 students, you know, equaling $1,000 in order to have this program selected. Because we do have some bigger schools in Hartford with some bigger grade levels that might have 5 classrooms and would be able to meet your criteria. But the thing is, that has to be in your database form. We cannot go back on it. So if we book your program and then you say, oh, there's only 75, I can't do it for that amount. If you tell us after that, we can't do anything about it. But if you do say ahead of time that I need at least 100 students, we will absolutely respect that. Okay, and we'll make sure that when we're booking with the grade levels that they know that they need to have that many students. It has happened in the past where there was a program that was booked by multiple grades in that one school and you're able to work it out perfectly that you can do the performance for both grades. You cannot count on it though. Is we are going to be sending out the database link to all of our schools that are participating so they can be looking at your programs on their time and really get a sense of what they want to use for the following year.
So they'll come to meet with you with an idea of the selection they've made?
Correct. So we go to them, and then based on their grade level, it'll start vetting out the programs, then by price, art form, and curriculum area. Then it shows all of the programs. Yes?
Hi, on our forms, we say that we'd like to have 75 students or 3 classrooms, but we also say we really want to work with you, so if you have less than 75, would you please give us a call, and we'll see if we can't work it out. We've worked with classes with grade levels that have had 69 as a total, and rather than saying no to that grade level, we'd rather work with 69 students. We even had one grade level that only had 2 classes or 49 students, but they really, really wanted the program. So,
which is a great marketing tactic. It gets you into that school, so then, trust me, the best way to get your programs in the school is by word of mouth. And by doing something like that, they'll remember that. But it's not required. So availability. I know a lot of you already have gigs that are already lined up for next year and the years to come. What makes it easier to start the scheduling process with the teachers is that we know those times up front. So, and it's okay if you don't know anything yet and you just want to put all year. That's okay. But if you know that the month of March is just absolutely out of the question, just put it there. It just makes it easier. It's one less email back and forth. So the next part of it is just program location. We just check off what best describes your program, whether it's in-school performance, off-site, in-school workshops and such.
Can you fill out one of these for each program?
You fill one of these out for each of your programs. Yes. So the length of time, it's really helpful to know the exact number of visits that your program is and the exact amount of time they are when we're scheduling. We try to stay away from the whole 1 to 2 visits. That's harder to book because then what happens is that we'll have a grade level calling us and saying, I thought this program was 2 visits. And I'll say, I did too. And then you'll say, well, it says 1 to 2. So it's just easier to be very transparent that my program is 1 visit for 45 minutes or what have you. Okay. Also, if your program is one of the arts-focused programs, it has to fit within a 45-minute chunk of time because that's when the classes are happening. That's the time period that they have. And then also, another thing to know about arts-focused is you might not be working with the entire, an entire grade level, but different classrooms from different grade levels, as long as your program aligns to those grade levels.
And 45 minutes is the minimum. You may get 5 minutes of grading time, or even 10, depending on the bell schedule. But if you plan on finishing it in 45, you'll be good to go.
And the reason why we did it this way this year, we actually piloted arts-focused programs this year. We let all of our arts teachers and PE teachers select programming from our database, and we were realizing that those schedules looked so different in every single school, and it became a scheduling nightmare for the arts providers. So the reason why we're saying to have it as back-to-back classes on that day is so that we can get your program done in 1 day instead of in 3 or 4 weeks. Also, if your program does require a meeting with the teachers ahead of time, just to talk about, what they should expect from your program, what you want their role to be while your program is happening, please check off that box. I think it's great to have that face-to-face time, or even a phone call, just so they can best suit the needs of your program, and it can be, everything will be in place. Whether it's your space requirements, it's just great to have that upfront phone call. Now, if that's not embedded into your program, but you are willing to have that, please check that off at the bottom too. Okay. So, materials school is responsible for. Be as specific as possible. If you have a performance and you need tables, make sure to put that in there. If you need an auditorium, if you require paper, pens, anything, do not assume that they just have it. Okay? Because we've run into that in the past too.
And floor surface too. If you can't dance on carpet, or if you need hardwood, or it doesn't matter that specific, because they overbook spaces, and at the last minute they may try to scramble and send you down the hall. And if they know they can't send you to a room with carpeting and 6-foot ceilings.
So space requirements too?
I'm sorry?
Space requirements too?
Yeah, it'd be great. If you need risers or if you need music stands, just know that if all of a sudden the list becomes to be a little too extravagant, they might say no. That's not going to happen. Okay? Usually with setups for an auditorium, that's very easy for them, but as far as like with arts programs, or visual arts I should say, if you require a lot of materials, that's usually hard for an art teacher to accommodate. Also, and then it's just the same as far as materials artists provides, whatever you're going to be bringing in. If you have a big setup, that's really good for them to know. It takes you 2 hours to have your performance set up. That's going to be something they need to know. The next part, if your program serves more than 1 grade level, this is the time that we're now going to need the rest of the Common Core State Standards for each of those grade levels that your program serves, or Connecticut State Standards as well. So just as a refresher, it has the template, the format that we need the standards written out in. So here's the Common Core State Standards, and it shows each of the areas that we need information for. For every grade that your program serves, we need to have the standards for. So that's one of the really great things about Hartford Performs is that we can say every program that is in our database aligns to learning standards and aligns to the curriculum needs of the classrooms in Hartford Public Schools. So we're really proud to say that, and so we have to adhere to that.
And it's actually a better thing for you because on the teacher side, if they're a third grade teacher, when they're searching, they put third grade subject and it's going to populate it. So if you haven't supplied that as a search field, it's not going to come up for that third grade teacher. She won't know to go back to the main database. Oh, well, maybe they can stretch it. They're not going to do it. So, once again, this just kind of gives you the format and where to find each of those areas on the documents. I know some of those can be a little confusing when looking through them. Also, if you need access to the learning standards, Common Core State Standards, or the art standards, you can go right to our website. I'll send you all the link. And it has it right there that you can just click on it and upload a PDF instead of going to each of the individual websites. I know that can kind of be a pain. So trying to lessen the work as much as possible for you. Okay. And it will be right under Arts Provider Resources. We don't need 100 for each of the grade levels, you know, a maximum of 2. Because we have to look at it realistically. If you're going in for one 45-minute visit, it's going to be very hard to teach a dozen standards. You know, you might be touching upon them, but are you really teaching them? Okay, so that's when you're looking through those documents, really keep that in mind. And once again, if you have any trouble looking through or finding anything, or you have questions, you can call me, we can talk through it. And then also it's the same thing for the art standards as well. You know, you can list as many of those as you'd like, but if you're one of those programs that are pre-K to 8th grade, we totally understand if you just want to list 1 or 2 for each of those grade levels. Okay? And what's awesome, especially for the off-site performances, the teachers have to fill out an excursion form in order to go off-site for anything. So what was so great this year is they were literally able to download the PDF version of your program and literally staple it to that form and send it downtown in order for their field trip to then be approved. So it's really helpful on that end. 2, Arts Provider's Objective. Sometimes we get really into all the nitty-gritty details and our program descriptions that all of a sudden we're like, what? You know, a teacher will look at it and say, so what's the goal of this program? So this is the part that you get to just write a 2-sentence thing. My overall goal is to introduce history through music, what have you. Okay? Just a really quick sentence, just a synopsis of everything that your program covers. Teachers' role during the program. Some of these, especially, we have 6 new schools signing on this year. So with those schools in particular, they might be extremely new to having teaching artists come into their classrooms. So they might not necessarily know what to do while you're in the room with them. So it would be great if you actually bullet out what your expectations for them are. And actually another great thing that we do is we require at the end of the school year, each grade level team has to send us a lesson plan summary for one of the programs that they selected. So giving them the roles up front would be a really helpful way for them to then have some type of lesson plan written up for the end of the year. It's a very generic lesson plan template that we give them. We ask them why did they select the program that they selected, how did they tie it into what they're already teaching in class, and what type of extension activities did they do afterwards. And the other thing we'd like to do this year is have the artists touch base with the front desk. There's a zillion things going on, but that touch point the day before or even the day of, I am so-and-so from this organization and I'm coming in with Hartford Performs. It's on their radar screen. All the kids that are having emergencies and everything, it puts it in the back of their mind, and then we're thinking of just maybe one leading question. Anything in particular I need to know about the entrance or the parking lot? So if they say, oh yeah, we've got the circus setting up in Lot B and the road's going to be closed. Come in down this street, because with going from school to school, there's nothing worse than being ready for a 10-minute setup and all of a sudden that 10 minutes is gone. So it's a nice courtesy thing, and you'll know a lot about the climate of the school just by the way the answer.
Next page. So, your program description. So, this does not have to be the in-depth craziness that you just had to do in the application. I have to say, it is very helpful if you do have a multiple day residency, that you break it out by day. So then the teacher knows what's going to be happening, and they can best see your program. But now is the time to really sell your program. You know, it does not have to be, and I promise it aligns to the Common Core state standards in this way. We already did all that work, so you don't have to do that. They're already going to be listed on your data, on the database, right underneath your program description. So we already know that it aligns. So now's the fun part. What are you going to be bringing to the classroom? Okay? We do ask that you limit yourself to 200 words. And the reason why we do that is we'll go into detail about what the arts integration team meetings look like. Once again, there are 204 programs. So the idea that they're going to be reading this 3-page program description is highly unlikely. So it's really great if you can really pin down the essence of your program in 200 words. Okay?
Is there a place on this database for us to just put the link to our program's website?
Absolutely. First page. Yep. It has a website link. Please add it. If you have a website, by all means. Yeah. Additional notes. This is the area that if there's any other gems about your program that we may need to know about, if there's live animals that are coming in, if you do require a 2-hour setup, anything like that. If you do have a minimum number of students, it's the easiest to have it right in that area. That's where it will be listed in the database under additional notes about your program. Okay?
And again, put yourself in the position of the teacher that's going to be multitasking at the time that she's scanning. Just like any newspaper ad for upcoming performance. If you have a visual that they lock in on, they're going to probably spend another 10 seconds, maybe 15, looking for a couple little buzzwords to justify having that in their classroom. Because that time is so tight, and every single minute of instruction is scrutinized. So
Yeah.
make it pop.
If you do have multiple days, the way that we respond to the 1 to 2 visits, and let's say that's like a cost breakdown thing, you can do that. You can say, if you have 50 students, I will come for 1 visit. If you have 80 students, I can come for 2 visits. You can break it up like that in the additional notes section. So, and then all of a sudden it gets rid of any of that 1 to 2 visits. What does that mean? Okay? So I wanted to talk to you guys about the scheduling process and what that looks like. So once we have your information uploaded into the database, we send out the database link to all the teachers. Hopefully they're looking at it ahead of time. Some of them do, some of them don't. We have the Arts Provider Fair during the August PD. That is your opportune time to talk to these teachers about your program, especially with the new schools. But then what happens, in September, we sit down with every grade level at every participating school with our database. This year it'll be 25 schools, so it's going to be interesting. So with that day that their school schedules with us is the day that they book their program selections. For every program, so I'm going to get the papers over here now. For every program that is booked through Hartford Performs, they get a payment voucher form. So this voucher, which will be on very pretty cardstock, will have a voucher number and all of your contact details. Also on it, it's going to have the grade level that selected your program and also a quote for how many students. We ask them in the beginning of the school year a guesstimate for how many students they have in their grade level. So that way, when they contact you, they can say, oh, and we do have 100 students, just so you know. Hartford Performs writes in that number ahead of time. So, and we did that just so there wouldn't be any type of questioning at the end of the program. So what happens once your program is booked, it happens. If there is an increase in the number of students that you worked with, the site coordinator or the teacher will cross off that number and put the higher amount. If the program, for some reason, has less students than originally anticipated, that number that it was quoted as is what you'll be paid for. Okay, because we know attendance rates are all over the place, and we don't want you to, think that you're going to be working with $1,000 and then you end up getting paid for $800. Does that make sense? Great. So after those programs, they have until November 1st to make initial contact with you. So it is up to the schools in order to contact you first. And then they can do that by email, by phone, whatever works best for them. I have to say, if you have a certain way that you are best reached by, that's also another thing in additional notes that you can add. I'm best reached if you just email me. That's the easiest way. Please don't ask our teachers to text. A lot of them might not have cell service in their room. Okay, a lot of them, when they do start scheduling, are doing it during their prep time. So we want to make it as easy for them to get in touch with you as possible. January 1st, everything needs to be scheduled and finalized. That doesn't mean it has to happen by January 1st. It can be scheduled all the way out until June, but it has to be in the books, finalized by January 1st, or the program just does not happen. Okay, we're really going to be tight about it this year. So, and of course, we're going to run into 100 things. We're going to have hurricanes, we're going to have blizzards, and all of that. I mean, that never happens. We don't live in New England or anything. So, it's one of those things that we know that things happen. But right from the beginning, we have to have everything scheduled by January 1st. If things need to change around, I understand, but that needs to happen by January 1st. When does it happen by?
January 1st.
Right, you got it. So, now the other thing, when a teacher contacts you, the best thing to ask them, first question, do you have a Hartford Performs voucher number? And they're going to give you a generic number that we have in our system. We have a whole tracking system of every voucher that we have booked. We've booked 540 programs this year, so it's going to be increasing next year as well. We have record of each of these. The reason why this voucher number is important is after they meet you, after the August PD, a lot of these teachers are going to be really excited and pull you aside and just say, I want your program, I want to book it right now. They can. So, I mean, that'll be great if you give them, here's our flyer, you can find us in the Hartford Performs database. Great, you have to have your meeting with Hartford Performs first before you can book my program. The reason why is if we are working with schools and we book your program and you're close to your capacity, we're not going to know that if you're booking separately. So in order for us to be respectful of how many programs that you're willing to give to Hartford Performs, we have to book the programs. So they can't just directly go to you. Your way of knowing that is by that Hartford Performs voucher number, that they had that meeting with us, and it's confirmed. That's the other thing on the database. All of your contact information is not going to be on there directly, other than your website if you want it. And we're doing that too to kind of ease any confusion so you don't have schools calling you before they even had their meeting and saying, we want to schedule your program. That's why we don't have any of your emails or your phone numbers already on there. But once they do book their program with us, they get a voucher number with all your contact information written on it. Okay. So by November 1st, and it might be a little later this year since we're going to have more schools, that is the time that you can contact me and can ask for a list of school and grade levels that booked your program, and I'll be able to put that together for you. If you want that ahead of time, just to kind of have an idea of how to work around what's to come. So, and a lot of the, well, all of the schools have a site coordinator, which acts as a liaison between Hartford Performs and the school, and they're going to be that point person in each of the buildings. That person is usually the one that holds on to the vouchers in the school. It's somebody who's already a staff in that school and they know their building. So in a lot of cases, it can be an admin person, it could be the music teacher. It's different at each of the schools. So I can give you that information also when you ask me for all the programs or which programs are booked at the beginning of the year. So another thing that we created last year did you have a question? No. Okay. Is this form, and I will be emailing this to you, so you'll have it electronically. But we do have some teachers that, once again, they're really busy, and they might contact you and be like, hi, I met with Hartford Performs, I want your program by. And they give you no information whatsoever, which isn't helpful. So we created this nifty little form. If that happens to you, please feel free to send this to them. And it's asking for their Hartford Performs voucher number, which program they selected. That's usually not helpful if you have 6 programs in our database, and it's like, which one do you want? Also the school address, and also principal's name is also helpful to have in case anything happens, site coordinator, and also their contact info. It really gets into nitty-gritty details, and you might get some eye rolls in the beginning, but what will be nice about this is it's going to save you 4 emails back and forth, just to get all of this information up front. One of our visions as Hartford Performs is by the time the student in Hartford reaches 9th grade, they've experienced a professional performance off-site by that grade level. So at 2nd grade, we require them to pick a program off-site for dance. By 4th grade, music performance. 6th grade, they have to go to a museum visit. And 8th grade, an off-site theater performance. So those are things that you should know in the back of your mind that is happening. We do have programming in our database that is subsidized, so it will not impact the program selections, but that those things are happening as well. So the payment process. So once your program is completed in a school, do not leave the school without your Hartford Performs payment voucher. Okay? That's that funny little document I told you is going to be on really fancy cardstock. You need that in order to get paid. So the site coordinator in the school usually has them. They may have passed it off to the grade level teacher. If you leave the school without your voucher, let's say there's a voucher missing for whatever reason, contact me immediately so then we can make sure that you get paid in a timely manner. Okay? But in most cases, it's just great to walk out of the building with it in hand. So, and make sure to double check the number of students is correct and that it's actually signed off on. Once you have your voucher, what you do is you send that to me with an invoice, which there's also a template in your folder, and another document that I will be emailing to you, just so you have it. This is just a template. If you already have one in place, by all means, use your own. But if you need a template, you can use ours. Okay? And then we'll need your W-9 in order to get paid. Those are the 3 pieces of paper that we'll need. And at this point, you can either email or snail mail them to us. Another thing that I forgot to mention to everybody is, especially for the folks who are working with the pre-Ks and like the first graders who may have a well below 75 student mark. We were running into a thing our first year where there was a grade level with 18 students, and if you're charging $10 per student, that doesn't really add up. It's too much. So if you do work with the grade level that has less than 40 students, you're automatically paid for 40 students. So you'll never be paid less than 400 students. The only exception to that rule is if you're an off-site performance that we're paying tickets for, we'll pay the exact number of those tickets.